who created us here? Does Michelle mention anything that the Theobans mentioned to him? Like, who created life here on Earth? How far back does life originate here on Earth? And were we genetically modified?
So in the very, very beginning, the Big Bang theory is actually right on track. There is a pure spirit which is a creator of everything, the great ether, or what we would call God, that created all the stars, the planets, and plants and animals and human beings on Earth and also on other planets. So they created the ETs as well. So this is a pure spirit without a physical body. So when the pure spirit maybe is bored or something, wants to have a physical experience, it inserted a tiny portion of self into each of our physical bodies. My response is that they wouldn't need any implants to do that because the highest degree chair of the Illuminati can do that without using implants. And the Theubans can do that too, and Christ can do that too. So this is like a supernatural psychic ability that people can practice, and they can. If you read the book, you're gonna know the other Illuminati book. You're gonna know that how much psychic powers that they have and how they achieve that. So when the Lemurians, when the people from Remo X3 were trying to migrate here to Earth, they encountered resistance from the Chinese because the Chinese were very suspicious of outsiders. I can testify that because I'm Chinese, because I know the Chinese nowadays are still very suspicious. So so they retracted and backtracked. They used the far side of the moon as a transfer station to migrate their people face by face. So that's why they built on the backside of the moon ET spaces or stations, and so that's the what they say about the moon, and also on Mars. Yeah, there were life forms on Mars and highly spiritual people, but they died because Mars was cooling down. It meant the core of Mars was cooling down. When the core cools down, it no longer has the electromagnetic forces to capture the atmosphere, so that plants and animals and human beings on Mars died. This book really touches the foundational issues that we have as humanities, as a mankind have on Earth. It really like touches uh, like even though superficially some of the issues that are fundamental to the special interest groups, like the financiers or the top
Mm.
people running everything behind the scenes, manipulating the politicians on stage. So it really kind of it's not just like teaching people to be more spiritual, but it really gives a solution to the issues that we have. For example, it really wants us to follow the what Martin Luther King and Gandhi did in the past, like through nonviolent resistance to rise up against tyranny.
So what was that within the book? Multiple things. What was it to make you believe his story?
It's multiple things. One is about reincarnation, the spirit, the astral body, and the physical body, the relationship. The other is about some of the explanations of the paranormal phenomena, such as why some people are able to see ghosts, what ghosts are, and the explanations about what happened in the Bermuda Triangle, why so many ships and planes disappear, and also explains why, in a different way, why so many people disappear in the national parks in the U.S. and Canada, as documented by David Paulides. Explanation on the use and how the Great Pyramid was built in ancient Egypt. And if the members of the Illuminati have this kind of supernatural psychic powers that make people believe that they can kill people and influence people's mind,
Mind control, yeah.
yeah, mind control. And actually, that book also talks about how they mind control other people. They have this ability of having of going inside the person's mind, observing what that person observes, and feeling what that person feels, and then controlling that person to a degree, if that person is not strong-minded. But the book also reveals what they're afraid of the most. They're afraid of the power of the people, the collective consciousness, meaning that even though they have so much psychic powers, if people act together, having this kind of collective consciousness, they are not able to defeat the power of the people. So the reason why that author wrote a book is that it wants to tell or reveal all the secrets of the secret societies so that people in the future will not become afraid of them because they know that the power of the mind collectively will defeat the supernatural powers of the secret societies. And then the person, the ET, told him that she was tall, and she took him to like a parallel universe, and then they had a like short stop over there, and then she took him to the spacecraft.
Beyond the Forbidden.
Welcome to Beyond the Forbidden. Today on the show, got somebody I've been really trying to get on the show for a while. We've had some difficulties the past year and a half, mostly on my end with scheduling and stuff. But I have Samuel Chong. It's a treat and honor to finally get you on the show. How you been, man?
Good. Thanks for having me here, Michael.
I love having these discussions, and just like I told you, I heard you on the Veritas show, and that was a great interview that you just did with him. And I guess, I've known about you for a little while, but there's gonna be people in the audience that have no idea, of you or of what you're bringing to the table when it comes to the Thiaooba prophecies and Michel Desmarquet.
Yes.
Desmarquet, with his work from the 1980s book, the Thiaooba prophecies. But yeah, go ahead and give a base for everybody to, a little bit about yourself, and then Michel also.
Okay, I was born in Beijing, China in 1978, and then came here at the age of 15. Went to high school and UC Berkeley, and also had my master's degree in University of Carlos III in Spain. So I currently work as a certified court interpreter. So most of my clients are lawyers, doctors, and also business people, like corporations. But since I was young, I always had a fascination of finding out how we can progress at a much faster pace. I was thinking if the ETs could come and visit us, they must have advanced technologies, and we can just learn from them. So in my subconscious mind, I was always looking for books regarding ET contactees and to learn what the ETs say about us, how we can progress. So back in 2014, I was searching on Amazon online, and then I accidentally found this book. At that time, it was titled Abduction to the Ninth Planet. At that time, I thought it's just another book of ET.
What year was that, Samuel?
2014, that's when I found the book.
Okay.
Yes. So by that time, I already read so many books written by ET contactees. I thought it's just another book with information that could be true and could be probably people's imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So I checked it out, and I found that there are a lot of specific verifiable information that I later researched and did a further investigation and found them to be true. So what the ET told us are some of the things that people nowadays can verify. But in the past, before the age of the internet, back in the late 80s and early 90s, people just couldn't have been able to know such information. For example, the tomb of Jesus Christ in Shingo Village, Japan. The author Michel Desmarquet was a landscaper in Australia. Back then, there was no internet, and he didn't know how to use a computer. But he wrote so many facts that I was really amazed at how could he have been able to know this kind of specific verifiable facts, such as the antibacterial, antiviral effects of blue light. So when he was it actually happened in 1987 when he was sleeping in his home in Cairns, Australia. But he woke up suddenly in the middle of the night He didn't know why, but he wrote a note to his wife saying that I'll be gone for 10 days. No need to worry about me. So he walked outside of his house and he was lifted up to the middle of the air where he encountered this beautiful 10-foot tall ET with a spacesuit. And then the ET, told him that she was tall and she took him to like a parallel universe. And then they had a like short stop over there. And then she took him to the spacecraft where he was disinfected by blue light, yellow light and blue light. It turns out that also yellow light had antibacterial effect as well. It's actually proven by research papers. If people just search online, they can find the research paper. So a lot of minuscule or detailed facts were written in the book, and the book tells about the history of mankind, where the Black people came from, the yellow people came from, the Caucasians, the Jewish people, and also some of the problems we are facing nowadays, the political system and also the financial system. It also talks about the religious ancient scriptures, how those came about, what happened to Moses, what happened to Jesus, what happened to Christ, and things like that I found to be extremely fascinating and interesting.
And I was going to kind of ask you about that. I guess go a little bit further in detail, because what was that spark in you that compelled you to say he's on to something? If you had to pick one thing that was in the book, or maybe a couple things, what, because you definitely, you've been doing interviews, you've been talking about this, the past couple of years. You definitely agree with his work. So what was that within the book? Multiple things. What was it to make you believe his story?
It's multiple things. One is about reincarnation, the spirit, the astral body, and the physical body, the relationship. The other is about some of the explanations of the paranormal phenomena, such as why some people are able to see ghosts, what ghosts are, and the explanations about what happened in the Bermuda Triangle, why so many ships and planes disappear, and also explains why, in a different way, why so many people disappear in the national parks in the U.S. and Canada, as documented by David Paulides. Explanation on the use and how the Great Pyramid was built in ancient Egypt. It's actually an energy center. But most importantly, it's about the Bible, the stories in the Bible. I read the Bible and came to the US. I thought the Bible is just a fictional story, a fictional book written by people with great compassion and imagination. It's a good book, but I just couldn't believe that someone could perform such miracles because I mean, what the Bible says about what we should do and follow the teachings of Christ, it's not what really the organized religions were doing in the past. They killed so many people, and they're saying one thing and doing another. So, but this book, Thiaooba Prophecy, explains why that happened. What really happened to Moses, the parting of the Sea of Reeds, not the Red Sea, but the Sea of Reeds, why they led Moses leading the ancient Hebrews out of Egypt, the reasons behind it, why they came and to help the Hebrews, and also why they decided to have Jesus and Christ come to us, and why, like in the Bible, once reading the Bible, I was thinking, if someone came to us and to preach, and like, why he didn't perform any miracles before he began preaching? Why suddenly he became this kind of omnipotent person and doing everything to amaze people so that people could believe his preachings?
He had
And
to
why?
learn Eastern philosophies and all that, didn't he? When his years missing, was it 15 or something like that? Years missing. Did he go
Yeah.
to China and all the Asian countries and he learned a lot of other people's wisdoms and knowledge and teachings and all of that, I guess. I don't know.
Yes, between the age of 15 and between the age 15 and 30, he just disappeared, it seems. And people say he went to India. Indeed, he did went to India, and he died in Japan. That's the Jesus. But Christ is another figure, according to this book. And that explains why when Christ began preaching, after he began preaching, he didn't call his mother mother. He called his mother woman. So I study languages. I'm a linguist. So it's just it's impossible for anyone in the world to call his mother woman in front of a group of people. I mean, it's just impossible because there's a special relationship between mother and son. And but this book explains why Christ did that when he saw the mother of Jesus, because Christ and Jesus were two different beings. So this book connects all the dots and also points out some of the inconsistencies of the Old Testaments of the Bible, because of either translation issues or some other issues, and why the concept of reincarnation was removed from the Bible. And they pinpointed the four Catholic Church Council meetings that intentionally distorted the original meanings of the ancient scriptures. So everything is
You talking about the Council of Nicaea and
yeah, that's one of the four.
And others? Well,
Yes.
who are some of the others? Because I've heard different speculations, but I don't remember some of the other councils or
Yeah.
whatever that had their whenever they're editing and adding things and taking away things.
Yeah, so there's a number of councils. Um, let me give you the list. So
Okay.
there's a council of Nicaea, that's one, and there's a council of Constantinople,
Yes, I've
and
heard of that one.
yeah,
Yes.
and there's a council of Ephesus, and
Ephesians.
yeah,
Ephesians. Yeah.
and council of Chalcedon. How that's Chalcedon, and so those are the council meetings that specifically listed in the book. So this book contains a lot of specific facts that I was amazed. So it's a multiple factors.
And we're going to go a lot further than just um, the religious aspect on this. But since we're already on it, I have to ask you, what was there anything in the book with Michelle and his book, the Thiaooba prophecy that talked about, or just through your own research of why were some of the text edited and changed, manipulated, and things like that, and who was behind that? Like, other than just the councils, like what was, I guess, I know agenda gets overused. I overuse it. I overuse the hell out of it, but like, what was the purpose for editing? Is to keep us from our truest potential and our true understanding of who we are and where we came from?
I mean, it's about power and control. It's done by the clergy, the top people of organized religions in the world, not just the Christian religion, but also other religions too. So actually, religion is one of the four true dangers of Earth. The number one being money, the number two, politicians, number three, journalists and drugs, number four, religions. So it's done by the organized religions, and in order to bring up their power and control over people, and they wanted to keep people ignorant so that they can have or exert their influence over them. So it's actually happening right now if you look at the media and also look at the things happening around the world, and it's actually basically the same thing repeating itself. But this book is aimed at waking people up and letting people know what's really going on around them, and to really have the knowledge to respond to the challenges that we have been facing and we are going to be facing in the future. And so I think this book encompasses a lot of different issues and topics that are enlightening to a lot of people. I think this is an important book that everyone should grab it and to delve into it.
It Why do you think this book, the Thiaooba prophecy, hasn't gained a whole lot of attention, I guess, because it's been out for a while? Is it because the title? Because I'm not saying nothing wrong with the title, not for me, but some people that may not be catchy. It may, you know what I mean? Because it's much more than just, I guess, a prophecy. It's a lot of things, and it kind of correlates somewhat to a degree. It resembles to the book of the series of books of the Law of One in a way, similar. Do you want to help support Beyond Forbidden and receive extra content that's not seen anywhere else? By becoming a patron, a few things you will receive are the full-length 90-minute or 120-minute podcast episode. Members will also receive a private link of the video podcast and will only be exclusive to Patreon members. In-person, face-to-face interviews with some of the most well-known, respected researchers. Behind-the-scenes footage of interviews not seen anywhere else. And that's just a few perks. So what do you have to lose? Cut out one brain-rotting, overly processed Happy Meal a month that doesn't do anything beneficial for your mind, body, and spirit, and become a Patreon for just $5.
The book actually has had 3 titles. The first title was Abduction to the Next Planet. It was catchy to a certain group of people. Then they decided to change to Thiaooba Prophecy, following the success of the Celestial Prophecy. I don't know, it didn't really succeed in after the change of the title. But the author, Michel Desmarquet, really wanted the book to be titled The Golden Planet. And I think it's 2 factors. One was that after Michel Desmarquet wrote the book back in the early 90s, people were not ready yet, because this is different from the Law of One or some other thing, because this talks about the politics and political system of not just China, but also the United States. Like it doesn't like dictatorship or authoritarian regime, but it also doesn't like the two-party system. It's saying that one party has to make a lot of concessions in order to get things done. That's going to slow down a lot of process. So this book is but it has to have a democratic process in selecting the leaders.
Just like conferences, because a lot of researchers and authors, they will use other books in the past, like many books, all kinds of books within the UFO, ET, paranormal community, ancient mysteries. And they will do lecture series, conferences, and they'll talk about certain things from clips from different books and things like that. And they will put, and that's how some of these books get known. How come, were there any authors, researchers really talking about the book back then and, kind of pushing it towards the conference scene?
Well, back then, Michel Desmarquet, remember, he was just a landscaper. He didn't know how to use a computer, and he was to use a kind of a word to describe him as a redneck of Australia. So he really did kind of derogative, but that's the fact. He tried his best, but no one believed him. Even the ufologists, the UFO community, didn't believe him at all. They thought he was having just another dream or something, because if you really look at some of the well-known ufologists here nowadays and in the past, they all have a very strong idea of certain beliefs. So they want to go into that route. They were and are now that's open as to opening to other kind of experiences. So Michel Desmarquet tried, but he didn't really. He wasn't able to make it to the mainstream and or a wider population. But I'm thinking that the time is approaching, so I'm going to be helping in this process.
And you're doing a good job with that, bringing this to the front. But you're only one man, so let's say, even just putting you to the side for a second, let's say that book was just released within the last 10, 15 years. Do you think it would have a much broader reach than it did? Because with it being released back then, like you said, a lot of skeptical minds out there within the UFO community, but things have evolved, especially when spirituality and just the community has evolved over the years. And since it was released back then, do you think it kind of got buried with so much other material that's came forth since then?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons. The other is that I think this book really touches the foundational issues that we have as humanities, as a mankind have on Earth. It really like touches like, even though superficially some of the issues that are fundamental to the special interest groups, like the financiers or the top
Mm.
people running everything behind the scenes, manipulating the politicians on stage. So it really kind of it's not just like teaching people to be more spiritual, but it really gives a solution to the issues that we have. For example, it really wants us to follow the what Martin Luther King and Gandhi did in the past, like through nonviolent resistance to rise up against tyranny, have a strike against everything. And I think there is a tremendous pressure to not have such information to be promoted, at least in the mainstream media, and also and also I think another reason that some people, like a lot of people, just tend to focus on one aspect of field. For example, the UFO people always want to find out more about the UFOs, and spiritual people wants to find out more about spirituality. But this book has other information like ET technologies and health related information, and also political system and religion religious issues as well. So it's not, and also ancient civilizations too. So it's like a
It's a jigsaw puzzle.
yes,
That's why I cover so many topics. I cover, I think it's all interconnected, like UFO, spirituality, the paranormal, the occult, ancient mysteries, conspiracies. In one way or another, shape or fashion, everything does interconnect one way or another on some level or another.
yeah.
Uh,
And I think in the next phase, I'm gonna be coming out more in the mainstream, kind of so-called mainstream, like media, and to maybe I'll write my own book and talk about some of the information that they may be able to accept, but bring in some ideas from this book.
how is this viewed in China?
It is one of the
Um,
best sellers in China.
it's viewed a lot.
Yes,
It
it's
has a
actually
much broader reach in China than it does here.
yes, yes. The reason is that there's because
Almost like a cult following in a way.
yes, in a way. Yeah. Because in China there's a strong censorship on any books that talks about religion or spirituality. So in the last few years or so, there's only like one or two books published on spirituality and zero book about UFOs. So this book kind of fills the vacuum. So people were eager and yearning for this kind of information. So this is one of the reasons why it's been so popular in China. And
That's
also because,
crazy. It's crazy how it has a cult following because yes, the censorship and all the the control, the totalitarianism over there. Yes, we have it here. Yes, I know, but it's much more control over there.
yes.
And it's crazy how it has this following. It's almost like if you're in the know, you're in the know. You know what I mean? It's like almost like that show right there, the movie They Live. You know,
Mhm.
it's like only a few people are wearing the glasses. Hey man, you got to put these glasses on. Try. You're gonna see aliens, man. You're gonna see aliens. Like it's just this cult following. That's like a cult classic movie. They Live with Roddy Piper. And that's that's saying something, especially with how China is. And we're approaching that here in the U.S. But how it's gathered like this following, this network, when you have that level of censorship and control over narratives and everything like that over there.
Yeah, especially like we got around the censorship by having the book published as a science fiction in China. But people after reading the book found out that it couldn't possibly be a science fiction. So they started to talk about the book in social media and to have this kind of trend. And yeah, so I
I
think
find
it's
that
a interesting
fascinating.
phenomenon. Yeah.
I find that fascinating. I have this thing about, I don't know, like just I have this, I don't know if it's just this itch that I like to just try to itch at when it comes to understanding the mind and how the mind works and philosophy and just everything related to the mind. Um, like how do it's these followings, you know what I mean? Like how does this information, I don't know. I can't really put words around it, but it's just fascinating how it has this following like that over there. And And I don't know. But anyways, to move on, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about Michelle. Don't say it. Hold on, Michelle Desmarquet.
Yeah, Desmarquet.
Desmarquet. I
Yeah.
have, it's I kind of got that. You you said he's kind of the redneck of Australia. Here in the South, we're all considered rednecks that have no knowledge and things like that. But yes, I have, and a lot of people, I've been blessed. That's why I don't hardly even read comments anymore, because of people when they hear your language and your dialect and your grammar, your everything, they already put this stigma on you. They put this label on you. They
Yeah.
put you in this box that you're unintelligent and you know nothing. Okay, go ahead, and you think 9/11 was happened just the way it happened. There was no inside job, and you believe that, that you believe everything the mainstream media tells you. Okay, go ahead. But anyways, but
That's the perception that people had on Michel Desmarquet at that time. People really just treated him as someone who was talking like having a dream experience, and because he really didn't show up as someone who was knowledgeable of certain information, and people just had a perception of him at that time, so they didn't really treat him seriously. So that's what happened in the past. Yeah.
so I really want to ask you this right now, but we have to get some more groundwork on Michelle for the
Mhm.
audience.
Yeah.
So let's give a little bit more groundwork on him
Mhm.
and what the series of events, what led to, I guess, is, I don't know if you like using abduction, his taking, with his experiences. Let's give a little bit more groundwork with Michelle to the audience, and then we'll go further down the rabbit hole with him.
Mm. So he was born in French in Normandy, France, and then he just a regular person. He enjoyed nature and had a lot of farming experiences, growing plants and raising animals. And he later went to Australia and just lived a very normal life. His home in Cairns was kind of a remote place. Behind his house is national park, and he had neighbors, but they were not connected. So it's kind of like standalone house. But he was just having regular life at that time, and but this event happened to him unexpected. So he just was lifted up and to the middle of the air, and he encountered this ET and who took him to the planet Thiaouba for 9 days and then came back. In which
I'm
during
sorry
the
to interrupt, Samuel. Was this a physical
physical
experience or was it like an outer body experience?
It's a physical experience. They actually took him physically to their planet for 9 days and then came back. On the way there and then coming back, he learned a lot of information on Earth about Earth, like the purpose of life, why we live this life, having so many challenges, and because we need to learn different lessons in order to grow spiritually. So that's the meaning of life, is to purify our souls and spirits so that we can bring our positive experiences back to our higher self after we die. So this is so they explains a lot of the mysteries that people have been wondering about. Um, and for me personally, what attracted me in the very beginning was the explanations of the Bermuda Triangle and the pyramid from the ETs. Because in my mind, if the ETs can really come and visit us, they must know what happened on Earth in ancient times and explain why so many things like mysterious phenomena occur on Earth. So that's my like perspective or my angle into this field, trying to find out the answers of the paranormal. So that's actually the point that I want to make, is that when I read information or books written by ET contactees, I always want to find out what the ETs say about the Great Pyramid, what the ETs say about the Bermuda Triangle, what the ETs say about reincarnation, and also our current political system and religions in the past.
So during, I guess it was in June of 1987
Yes.
when he was taken. Um, so during that event, that abduction, that encounter when he was taken to Thiaoouba, I guess, can you provide more insight into how these beings are depicted in the book, and what do their physical appearances and behaviors suggest about their intelligence and their evolution or their spiritual evolution, Samuel?
They can perform miracles as described in the Bible that Christ performed. So they have all the abilities to perform, for example, levitation, materialization of objects, and also projecting images onto a person, and also teleportation and telepathy. And they are 10 foot tall, Nordic looking, blonde, and really like a bluish and greenish, very light color eyes. And they're hermaphrodites, meaning that they have both male and female sexual organs. So they're both male and female. They are extremely loving and compassionate. So when Michel Desmarquet was with them, he felt love and compassion. He didn't really want to leave them. He wanted to spend more time on their planet because it's just like a paradise. Everything was so perfect, and they treated him very nicely. And Michel Desmarquet wanted to learn how they levitated,
Mhm.
but they just uh, ignore his request because, according to them, it seems to them that even like no matter how Michel Desmarquet tried, he wouldn't have been able to achieve that kind of ability. But they also kind of performed a lot of things in front of him, like like disappearing in front of him, um, just like vanishing in front of him, and like making him believe that he was dreaming. But on their planet, there are two things that are different from Earth. Is that the gravity on their planet is much smaller or lighter than on Earth. So Michel Desmarquet had to be very careful when moving around. Um, and also there's a strong light and colors, so that he had to wear masks like sunglasses to filter out the strong lights and colors. Otherwise, he would have been drunken by the strong colors and lights. It seems to Michel Desmarquet that the atmosphere is about the same as on Earth because he didn't need to have um, to have oxygen or something like that, and they travel through in two ways. One, they can levitate and they can really move around, but very slowly. They cannot cannot levitate and move around very fast. So they use a device that neutralizes gravity and also having a force field to move at a very fast speed, like 200, 300 miles per hour on their planet. And they actually took him to Michel Desmarquet's past lives. So we have reincarnation, but we forget once we decide to reincarnate again. So when we are born, we forget what happened in our past lives. So they actually took him to 80 of his past lives in the previously that he had previously. They also took him to the Akashic record of what happened on Earth 14,500 years ago when the continent
How
of
long?
Lemuria,
How long ago?
14,500 years ago, when the continent of Lemuria sunk into the ocean, what happened? There was a strong earthquake. And it's more like going into a holographic film or projection in which Michel Desmarquet was able to observe everything happened at that time to all the
I don't mean
people.
to interrupt, Samuel. I'm just trying to get more groundwork or just a better visual for the audience. This holographic, whatever, this is like this. This is the what they were showing with the Akashic records in the holographic manner or way to them.
So what happened was that Michel Desmarquet was on their planet, and then three of the masters of or the gurus on in their like on their planet sat next to him, and they put their hands to the solar plex of Michel Desmarquet and also to the this area and also the pineal gland area, and then they took his astral body. They made his astral body leaving his physical body, going along with their astral bodies to the Akashic record and visiting what happened in the past. What appeared to Michel Desmarquet was a holographic experience in which he could feel, hear, and experience what happened back then simultaneously. He immediately knew what happened to then and what was about to happen, and he actually observed how those people behaved when the disaster occurred, when there was an earthquake, and the entire continent sunk into the ocean almost overnight. And he actually observed what happened before that disaster happened and how harmoniously people lived on the continent of Lemuria, and how advanced technologies they had, and how people lived in a society where they had no money. They didn't need any money. People just grabbed what they needed from the marketplace without taking advantage of each other. And it's like a very successful and advanced civilization that existed on Earth back then.
When you mentioned a while ago that he had 80 past life experiences, what was the first and how long ago was that?
So they didn't really show him by the order, but one of the first descriptions he had in the book was when he was a mining worker in Germany who had like almost 10 children, and he was drinking a lot, and he came home and accidentally killed his wife, leaving his children behind. And then he was executed because of the incident, and then he died. So this is a first description of his past life. And then he had other lifetimes in which he was like goldsmiths in Japan, like beggars in different countries, and also a queen of a country on a different planet. And so he experienced like almost every role that we can possibly think of, um, in order to gain different experiences, spiritual lessons. So what they told him was that different lifetimes were like different points on a wheel. What goes up has to come down. So we have to experience everything in order to gain sufficient spiritual knowledge.
This is going to be a two-part question. And before I get to the second part of the question, the first part is, why was he chosen? Why was he taken? Why did the Thiaoubians chose to take him and give him this experience?
Well, he put in the book saying that one is that he had an open mind. This is a smaller reason, and the bigger reason is that he had 80 past lives already. He was living on his first 80 life. According to them, 81 lifetime it, lifetimes is actually a great cycle. Only people who had 80 past lives could survive on the planet for 9 days. I don't know why, probably due to vibrations or something. Other people, like, for example, me, can only survive for a few days, not as many as Michelle did, could have survived. So in order to have a fuller experience, they chose him because he was more ready than others. And the other reason I can think of is that he didn't have any preconceived notions on everything. And he was just like a white piece of paper to write on because they needed someone to report accurately word for word of what he observed and experienced without any personal ideas or ideologies. If they were to take a scientist or maybe like a ufologist to their planet, then that would have been distorted in the sense of the image or certain ideas that they want them to write on.
And the second part of that question is, why not choose? And I don't mean anything negative about this question at all, but and this isn't just for the Thiaoubians, or this goes for, I guess, any group of ETs that have abducted people here on Earth. Why not choose people of higher status in society that can help push society in the right direction, Samuel? What I'm saying is, why not take someone like a president, a famous actor, singer, or anyone that has a higher status in society, on social media, that has millions of followers, or whoever, And why not, for an example, why not take Elon Musk? He owns X, formerly known as Twitter. He has 160 million followers on Twitter. He is a mega billionaire with a lot of political and societal influence. If ETs take someone like him, that would definitely help push the world in a better direction because of the people that have these higher status, or these higher status individuals can reach a much larger audience on a global stage, because uh how many people they, they can reach. But because of how many people know, because when it comes to Michel Desmarquet and his book, the Thiaooba prophecy, I would say, only, if I had to put a percentage on it, only 1%, a couple percent of the world's population even know of this book and Michel's experiences.
If you look at nowadays, the most influential book in the world right now is the
And
Bible.
and to interrupt one more time, this is not just for him. This kind of goes towards any, because a lot of people that get taken and abducted by any group of ETs, they show them things, and that they are chosen because to try to help the spiritual evolution, whatever. But why not take someone that can have a much broader influence? That's the main question that I guess I meant to sum that up with.
Yeah. So if you look at the most influential or most sold books in the world, most sold books in the world is the Bible. So when Christ came here, he didn't have a very high status. They didn't take King Herod to their planet and to show him what's right about certain things and what's wrong about certain things. They had a very like humble person coming to the world and just to preach basic principles. And if you look at the effects, I think Christ probably had a stronger or long-lasting effect than what would happen if they took King Herod to their planet. And I think this is the same thing, that fundamental changes or evolutions or revolutions have to come from bottom up. They never come from top down. So if you really want to make fundamental changes in people's thinkings and philosophies and ways of living, you have to have this kind of grassroots movement to bring this trend up and not the other way around. So this is one reason. And the other reason is that they actually tried in the past, in the ancient times, when there was a separatist group that the black people, they went from Australia to Africa. This like the ancient past when people came to Earth. So the separatist groups is like a cult group, and so the clergy kept the people ignorant, and there were something like about 15 top clergy leaders of that religious cult, and they projected a dream to the top leader of that 15 clergy, high level clergy members. And what happened was that only like the top leader and two of his followers followed their suggestions of not keeping people ignorant. And the other 12 people didn't really agree with them. They were thinking that the top leader was having a dream or was too senior, or like having like a dementia or something psychological issue. So they decided to keep their own ways. So what happened? They had to really separate the three members from the rest of the 12. And then kill the 12 people and then keep the three who follow their suggestions. So this is what happens when you have just one leader to make the change. And it's not just Elon Musk can make all the decisions. The people around them wouldn't follow him. Because they have their own agenda, their own special interests. And also with what I just mentioned, fundamental changes always come from bottom up. So for that reason, they chose Michel Desmarquet to give the warnings to Earth, the people on Earth.
What were some of those? And if you want to save some of them for, if they're too, without breaking the algorithm in the first hour, you can save a few of them for the second hour if you want. But what are some of those warnings to Earth, Samuel?
The warning.
So some of the most important ones, I guess.
most important one is that we have to really know what's really going on behind the scenes. We look at for example, that's just the United States as an example. The Republicans and Democrats, they fight against each other, but what people don't realize is that there's a group behind everything, behind the Republicans and behind the Democrats. No matter who wins the presidency, except for they're always under control. So people need to realize that it's a special interest groups that are controlling the political scenes. And there's a way to respond to such situation. Is the power of the people is tremendous. And people need to realize they have the power to change everything. Like everything is run by money in this world. For example, if you look at the wars that started just a few years ago and also happening right now, people really don't want the wars. It's just but the military industrial complex, if there are no wars in the world, they wouldn't be able to make money anymore. The weapon suppliers and also the armies, I mean the special interest groups that supply the weapons, they would become bankrupt. So they need to create such situations on Earth in order to profit themselves. Similarly, special interest groups in different industries like the energy industry, the health industry, and also other industries, it's the same thing. Everything revolves around money. So people need to realize this and know how to respond to such situations, is to empower themselves with knowledge and to respond in a non-violent way, so that if there's a strike, they act together and concert fashion. Having a strike, then they would listen to our demands and our kind of wishes. I mean, the special interest groups would lose tremendously if there's a strike. And people need to realize that, because we, the people, the poor people, will lose very little. But the super wealthy, the special interest groups, they would lose tremendously and humongously because they rely on slave labor to profit themselves. And people need to have this knowledge and to act upon it. So this is why I've been trying to spread the messages as much that I can in this lifetime, hoping to reverse the trend. And so I think this is my mission.
And there's so much information within that book. The Thiaooba prophecy, it would take a 10-hour podcast just to even touch 5% within that book. It's a lot in there. It's a lot. I haven't read it all yet, but I can already tell it's a lot in there, a lot to digest. And you mentioned wars a while ago, Samuel. Not to steer too much off topic, but since you mentioned it, it all interconnects anyways. But there's a girl, I forgot her name. I think it was a girl, younger lady. She, how's it go? And it always, man, it gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. She says, why is it that countries are so strong in creating wars, why is it countries are so powerful in creating wars, yet so weak in creating peace? Whew. You know what I mean? I got goosebumps now. It's that one little simple quote. Like, that's it, man. Like, they are so powerful in creating wars and division and hatred and confusion, but they're so weak in creating peace and trying to find a better solution. You think with our technological advancements and our intellect and our achievements that we've made over the past 100 years, we have found a better solution in creating peace on this planet.
I think one of the reasons is that among the top people, I mean, the people really controlling everything.
We're starting to get in the second hour, so go ahead and just do whatever you want. Say whatever you want to say, man.
I think the reason is that the people who are running everything behind the scenes, they have a incorrect preconceived notion that the Earth cannot really support so much population, and there's a need to kind of control the number of people on Earth. But what they don't realize is that we can really migrate to different planets. once we already have the technologies to do so, and they just they had this idea in decades ago that we had to remain on Earth, and in order for them to survive and to and the number of people that's on Earth has to be kept low or to a certain number. So that's why in order to profit themselves and also to keep themselves surviving, and they wanted to create certain things that may achieve their purpose. And I learned this from different sources, verifiable sources, from people who have credentials and who did a lot of research, who were themselves intelligence officers and who did research and accidentally found this kind of evidence of this group. For example, John Coleman wrote a book on the Committee of 300. And I think that has certain validity. And also, I think Aaron Russo had an interview with talk about Nick Rockefeller, and I think
yes,
that has a strong kind of authenticity in my mind. So I think people need to have the knowledge that it's not just what they see on the surface or on the front stage. They need to really look behind for all the reasons, for the real causes, and the people who are running everything and the way to counter them and to respond correctly in nonviolent resistance. This probably is the key.
You definitely have done your homework and research, because the few things you mentioned within this interview, there are people out there, who's Aaron Russo? You know what I mean? Like, that's just a teeny tiny example, but you definitely have done your homework or research, not just with UFOs, paranormals, and ETs, but with other things too, and it's all connected. But do you think that the powers that shouldn't be? Do you think that one goal or one agenda is to keep us from our truest potential? Is to inhibit us from reaching our true potential?
I think this is one of their goals. Only by doing so, they can keep and remain in power. What they don't realize is that they can also remain in power and also to have a more equalitarian kind of society where everyone is equal and they can achieve their more spiritual attainment and goals and to be more harmonious. They don't have this kind of spiritual knowledge to do so. So this is why they are really kind of restricted themselves in a more materialistic world, trying to gain more material wealth and more power. Once they have kind of like a near-death experience, they're going to realize everything. They're going to change their ways. But meanwhile, while they don't have such near-death experiences, we, the people, have to know this, have to really respond to the challenges that we face every day. So this is the key, is to have knowledge, to have the knowledge to do so.
So to kind of backtrack just a little bit, Samuel, who created us here? Does Michelle mention anything that the Thiaoubans mentioned to him? Like, who created life here on Earth? How far back does life originate here on Earth? And were we genetically modified? Do you want to help support Beyond Forbidden and receive extra content that's not seen anywhere else? By becoming a patron, a few things you will receive are the full-length 90-minute or 120-minute podcast episode. Members will also receive a private link to the video podcast and will only be exclusive to Patreon members. In-person, face-to-face interviews with some of the most well-known, respected researchers, behind-the-scenes footage of interviews not seen anywhere else, and that's just a few perks. So what do you have to lose? Cut out one brain-rotting, overly processed Happy Meal a month that doesn't do anything beneficial for your mind, body, and spirit, and become a Patreon for just $5.